Hello guys and welcome to an F1 23 video. I haven't done one of these before. I only got the game recently. But you will not be familiar with me playing in open lobbies, and this was a 25% length open lobby at Monza. Lobby I randomly joined, which I luckily managed to qualify myself for second in one-shot qualifying. So naturally I found myself in the front row, but at Monza it doesn't really matter. You just got to be the lucky one to make it out of turn one unscathed by everyone else, which you'll have to wait and see if I did make it out unscathed or not. But looking at the strategy here, the game hasn't really provided me with a fast option. I mean, even here you can see me playing around, seeing how much time I can gain, and just by touching up that one strategy, I'm already a second or a second and a half faster than I would be if I went with the game's suggestion. Then after playing around with this one, I looked at the two and I saw the soft to medium strategy was just faster naturally, so I decided to go for that. Now, getting a good start on this game isn't too difficult compared to last year, but it's still important to have. Now off the line we get a bit too much wheel spin, and already the virtual safety car comes out, and unfortunately we lose second place to that Ferrari because he just got a little bit of a better start than us, and yeah, that puts him ahead of us, and we've got to now overtake another person in this race and hope that we come out on top. But yeah, an unfortunate bug for us, and a full safety car comes out, and that completely changes things. Now, the reason why is because anyone can pit now and be good for the rest of the race, because for those who know, you need to get a stop early on to avoid everyone else. And for those who don't know why you need to get a stop early on, because you need to do at least one pit stop for 25% races or longer. But I wasn't thinking about this during the race, which is my only fault in this race, I reckon. But based off of the title, it was a strategic race for everyone. I mean, the safety car being a very good example, obviously. So it was more of trying to figure out how I can close the gap on everyone ahead, because some people pitted earlier, like that Ferrari there, for example, pitted much earlier, and some people stayed out thinking it would be the good idea. And the reason why I stayed out was not only because I forgot that the other alternative pitting on that first lap, but also because people are very dirty sometimes in open lobbies, and I thought people starting at the back of this lobby on the restart, they'll have to fight through unbearable amounts of traffic. Now that would apply a lot if there were more people staying out than pitting, but in this case it was half-half. Oh, sorry, no, it's the other way around. If there were more people pitting, it would be that case, but there were more people that stayed out than pitting, so it made it easier for the people at the back to make their way up front. Now, what you might see me here doing is kind of dragging the brakes. Now, I learned this off of Brendan Lee. If you don't know who he is, he's a two-time esports champion, but essentially I explained that if you hold down around 50% or lower on the brakes, but more on the throttle, you can drag the brakes out, which in turn makes them hotter, and the brakes being hotter makes the carcass temperature of the tires hotter. Now, luckily, these tires, they operate for the C3 to 5 compounds. They operate well in the 100 to 110 range. So just keeping in that range, making sure I have warm enough tires just for whenever the race restarts, which we do manage to get to eventually, 2 laps later. On lap 4, the safety car will come in, and I kind of guessed that because no safety car needs to be out for that long. And the only reason why it came out in the first place is because the grid was very bunched at the beginning. So yeah, I didn't think it would be out for too long. And this is pretty much the longest length a safety car can be out for anyways. So yeah. But what the McLaren was doing here, he's backing us up, trying to give him a bit of breathing space because I think he saw that Red Bull was getting in my way, and I need to get right behind that McLaren to ensure I get a good start, or a good restart, at least. And right here, I'm just trying to drag out my brakes as much as I can, get all the tire temperature in, and trying to make sure I don't accidentally overtake him while it's yellow flags, because I don't want to get a penalty. And yeah, he gets a good getaway. But we're draining as much ERS as we can to make sure he doesn't get away, because if we sink back into the lower positions, we will not get the position back. We've already taken the gamble by staying out, and we send it around the outside, and it's a little risky. We get squeezed out, but he leaves us enough space out to the exit, so we managed to stick with him. Haven't really lost much time, but the cars behind are kind of gathering up and are definitely going to be waiting for a mistake. I'm kind of applying pressure on the McLaren, seeing if I can squeeze a mistake out of him, which we do, but his speed out of that corner kind of affected us, and well, I mean, he got the getaway. But now heading down into the second DRS straight. Obviously we don't have DRS yet, but it is a straight which we can use to our advantage. Again, it's more of applying pressure to him, trying to see if he can make a mistake. Obviously not going for a move there. It's very dangerous through there. Easy to lose the car. And yeah, as you can see there, he does make a mistake, which is what we were looking for. But in turn, that Alpine behind us, trying to look for a move, but we make a very close overtake down the straight. I say close, just making sure there's no room for that Alpine to sneak through. But as I say that, there goes that Alpine up the inside as we went a bit wide there. Slightly went off the track, but we need to get that inside line heading into this corner. Taking the outside is a massive disadvantage, because the outside line out of turn 2 is much quicker for getaways. And you can see that the traction, we're just able to get it down faster than the McLaren. And the McLaren and I are the only two on soft tires as it stands. The rest of them, they're going to go longer, but they will pit later on. And the undercut will be very powerful considering how close they are now. And we just about clipped that McLaren. And he gets a good getaway. We're staying alongside him and we let him through. We let both of them through, actually. I decided that rather not fight, knowing that we're going to be pitting this lap. I think the more we fight, the more people we're going to need to work through. However, I just want to fight to the extent that they're all bunched together so that the undercut is powerful, you know, just the way we need it to be. And as it stands, this is the exact number of people I need for this undercut to work. Now, I kind of break a little earlier here, expecting quite a few cars to go wide, which they do, but we only managed to overtake one of the cars, and it doesn't really matter anyway because we are now pitting. One thing I was confused by is how he was able to speed into the pit lane with no penalty afterwards, but never mind that. I just needed to focus on getting this turn in right, which we managed to do. We get a 2.2 second pit stop. They've completely changed pit stops this year. You don't need to hold the clutch to go, or maybe it's a setting, I'm not sure, but we get a dodgy exit there. Traction's a little difficult to get, but yeah, we move on to the mediums. I was confused as to why the Red Bull moved on to softs so early. I mean, he was on mediums. He could have definitely gone longer, but I think considering how long that safety car went on for, he decided to long it out. I mean, he couldn't have stayed out that much longer on those mediums, otherwise he would have gotten a disqualification by the end of the race if he didn't change. But yeah, at this stage, it's all about keeping up with the Red Bull, because he's what's going to be able to tow me and make this undercut work. because we need to gain as much time as we can on this outlap. And as you'll soon be able to see, we get a purple sector too. So it's a good sign in regards to the undercut, but we need to use this slipstream, ERS, all the sorts to close down that gap and to boost the chances of us making this undercut work. And now heading into the final corner, we're just staying as close as we can. I do believe DRS is enabled, or it was on this lap. Yeah, DRS is enabled. And we use it to just tow us, and in the distance the McLaren comes out of the pit lane, who was fighting us for the lead, if you remember. And down into the chicane, the Red Bull goes very deep. He locks up a little bit there. He leaves us enough room on the exit though. But yeah, as you can see, the inside line out of turn 2 does not give us a good exit speed. So sometimes taking the outside line is beneficial, but there's another reason why you need the inside for turn 1. Now heading into the second chicane, those two cars up front are fighting, but that's the McLaren overtaking a slow car. And I initially thought that I needed to overtake a slow and dodgy car, but he took himself out, as you would have heard there. But that Red Bull gets a horrendous exit, and we use it to our advantage. But he's staying side by side with us, just about. But he backs out. He doesn't have the DRS, so he's at the disadvantage in that scenario. And that McLaren struggling through that section of the track, sticking in the slipstream. We don't want to drain all our ERS, as you can see, at 30%. If it drops below 20, we're in a bit of a disaster zone. I mean, it signals to everyone else that not only do we have low ERS, but we're easier to overtake. And now, here you can see me just using DRS, not touching the ERS once. Just making sure I can get ahead. I guess every now and then trying to touch it, you'll see later on, to get a bit ahead of the opponent. But the Red Bull locks up so much and went very deep into that corner. And he gets a 3-second time penalty for cutting the corner. That's how much he locked up. He went really deep there. And he really struggled to keep it on track. And now the McLaren tries to make it 3 wide into this chicane, but I've experienced firsthand 3 does not go into 1 in that corner. But we just about managed to cover off the Red Bull out of the chicane. And now at this point, I'm just hoping I'm fast enough to pull away from the Red Bull and the McLaren, because I'm anticipating they're going to fight, and that's going to slow them down, letting me pull out of the DRS range. But unfortunately, out of this corner, which is what I needed, they still just about managed to stay within the gap. And that's only applicable to the McLaren. The Red Bull's out of my range, but a final resort I kind of went for is getting in the slipstream of this AlphaTauri, who seems very slow and laggy and very defensive, which makes me think he's going to be a bit of a loose end in regards to making an overtake. And he lags backwards for some reason, and we ghost into him, which pretty much does the overtake for us. But that McLaren back there needs to do that overtake. If you can see in the mirror, the virtual mirror up there, obviously the opacity is kind of low, so it's hard for you to see. But we briefly look back, trying to see if he makes a move down into this chicane, which he doesn't. And we continue on. And it's around this point where I've completely ignored the fact that we're only in 5th place. There are 2 cars. There are 2 cars that... No, not 2, sorry. There are 4 cars that are ahead of us and don't seem to be pitting anytime soon. Which kind of signals to me they're the ones that pitted on the first lap, that being the lap of the safety car. So they've kind of pulled off a strategic masterclass in the sense of tire strategy. But for us, it's now about pushing, just taking the car as far as we can away from everyone else, including this McLaren who's fighting, going alongside us. He gets the DRS, but we're going to try stick our nose down into the chicane. We lock up slightly, but we manage to keep it out of the car. out of the McLaren, rather, trying to stay away from his side pods because that can easily take both us and him out. We don't get the overtake done in the first chicane, but we're going for it in the second. Again, sticking our foot in. Down the inside. It's very difficult here. He shoves us out wide a little bit and gets a great exit out of that corner. And he stays in front. Now, I'm anticipating DRS, but he is too. And you'll see soon enough what his plan was here. Now, I was a little slow to figure out what his true plan was because he was very slow down this straight and really was blocking the outside, which I thought was quite odd because the inside line obviously is the faster option. And then I get to this straight and I'm kind of thinking I'm lifting off here to give him the detection line ahead of me, and he already knows that, and that kind of confirmed my suspicions. He's been letting me overtake on that one straight so that he can have DRS on this one, and I caught on way too late, but luckily I got a better exit out of the final corner, but it wasn't enough to stop him from going alongside me. And down into this corner, I make a slight mistake. I brake too hard, I lock up, and I tag into the McLaren. I give him enough space, assuming he's still there, but no, he kind of cuts the corner there, and we need to drain a lot of battery in order to keep up with him, because that fatal mistake could have easily cost us the position. But we're not going to let it go. We're going to try and pressure him into a mistake like we did before. And it shouldn't be too hard, but we are losing some crucial time. And we're just trying to stay within that DRS gap. That DRS range will be crucial to us getting the overtake done for the position. And it's around now that I only just realized it's lap 12 of 13. I've only got one more lap to make this move stick. And we're again pressuring, getting all up in his mirrors to pressure him, and he purposefully goes wide there, trying to give me the DRS, and I lift off just a little bit more. And the reason why he didn't slow down there is because there's a Red Bull creeping up into our DRS range, and it's the Red Bull from before. And what we were doing down that straight was just staying directly behind him, not letting him slow down, because slowing us down would not only take us both out because the car's that fragile, but it would also make the Red Bull close in on us. And again, pressuring the McLaren heading into the chicane. He gets a bad exit, a little bit of a wobble there, but we're a little weak on the exits here, unfortunately, but we make up for it on straight line speed. So heading down into the chicane, we're going for the outside line. He kind of squeezes us a little bit. I thought he was going to push me off the track, but he gave me a respectful amount of room. Now we go past an AFK car. I didn't even notice. I thought it was a lapped car. But we move up into P5. Now heading down into the second DRS zone. This is where the move needs to count, because of all the times that I've calculated I made an overtake, he's only managed to do it on the start-finish straight. So I know this will have to be the move that gets me the position. We send it down the inside, a very risky move. We slightly push him off, but we give him enough space again, but he loses it on the corner, and there's a car that's crashed off the road. That's a Ferrari that's completely been taken out. And I then realized the car in front of us has an 11-second time penalty, and we are 10.6 seconds in the gap. So we need a good run down to the finish line here to get second place, and we do. By 0.5 of a second, we managed to get P2 in what once was a P6 promised race, and a very big turn of events considering where we were at one point. But it was a long fight and a good fight at that with the McLaren. And in this moment, I was kind of wondering how the Mercedes was so far ahead and being on mediums, because I thought he didn't do a stop. And then I was thinking, okay, maybe there's no rules in this lobby. That's why he managed to get away with it. But no, he made a stop, and he did it under the safety car. Because I'm not sure if you remember, but he went into the pit lane during the safety car period, and that gave him an advantage. So did that Ferrari, which is why he was ahead of us. until he crashed. So I guess we got kind of fortunate with all the people crashing around us. But in the end, it was the strategic understanding that got us the move on the McLaren, or kind of pressured him into a mistake. And that was enough to get us P2. So I think that was a good race in my books. Although we didn't win like we wanted to, it was a good finish nonetheless. Good position to get at the end of the day, and we managed to secure it. So yeah, that was one of my 25% length races that I've taken part in an open lobby. Surprisingly clean considering it's an open lobby, but I can't guarantee that'll be the case for the upcoming races that I do take part in. But yeah, as you can see, we didn't get the fastest lap, unfortunately. We got it snatched away from us by the McLaren. He got a 22.2. We had a 22.8 as our fastest. But yeah, that was our 25% race at Monza. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's kind of in-depth analysis, and I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.